Welcome to Comic Basics. Today's episode, the Green Lantern Corps versus the Nova Corps. Is one actually a copy of the other? But before we get to that, if after watching this video you like what you saw, please hit that subscribe button. What if the galaxy had a police force that could protect it? What if it had a group of extremely powerful creatures and beings who could do practically anything to keep law and order? And what if that group were as disciplined and effective as a military force? The galaxy would be a pretty safe place, wouldn't it? Often drawing comparisons to DC's Green Lantern Corps, Marvel's Nova Corps is also an intergalactic police force created to keep peace in the galaxy. Because the Green Lantern Corps debuted long before the Novas, and the way in which they each operate is eerily similar, comic book purists have accused Marvel of copying DC. This, as I'm sure you're aware, isn't the first time in their history that Marvel has been accused of copying DC. However, aside from Black Cat and Catwoman, it might be the most obvious. Or is it? I ask, are the Nova Corps an actual copy of the Green Lantern Corps? Is there even a reason to pit the Green Lantern Corps versus the Nova Corps? I've thought about this long and hard for years. Although it's inevitable, it's bothered me that the two companies and their properties are always being compared to one another. To me, the two are like a dog and a cat. Both can pretty much do exactly the same thing, and both make great pets, but at the end of the day, one is a dog and the other's a cat. So, to help figure things out, I decided to write my thoughts down. The Green Lanterns are the creation of John Broome and Gil Kane. They made their debut in 1959 and have patrolled the galaxy since. Similar to the Nova Corps, the Green Lanterns have tremendous power and use their power to keep peace and understanding in the DC cosmic universe. The Green Lanterns called Oa home, and Oa is home to the Guardians of the Universe. The Guardians of the Universe, even though they don't necessarily conjure up images of power, are a group of immortal beings who have been around since the beginning of time. After the Guardians of the Universe became wise to the notion of evil, they created the Green Lanterns. If you're confused, let me explain. At the dawn of time and on the planet Malthus lived a group of multi-celled organisms who began to interact with other beings on the planet. Their interaction caused the planet's inhabitants, if we can call them that, to grow into humanoid creatures. These creatures established colonies and made dramatic advancements in both science and technology. Sadly, a plague-like devastation hit Malthus and wiped out any who resided in its cities. All was not lost, however, as the plague did not affect those who lived outside the cities. Now without a home, a few scientists left the devastation and found a group of women who had somehow survived the plague. And how? The group survived because the plague was triggered by men. Because the women had no contact with men, it remained dormant and was never triggered. Due to the interaction between men and women that triggered the plague, the scientists set out to create genetically engineered children. As the years passed, the methods of engineering children became more advanced. This was so much that the children who were being born immortal. With immortality achieved, the scientists stopped creating children. Most in the race were satisfied with the decision. Krona, a brilliant scientist, however, was not. He understood that the race could, with more time and understanding, see the origin of the universe. Fueled by his desire for more, he went rogue and set out seeking the origin of the universe. Unfortunately, while doing this, he also inadvertently created evil. With the appearance of evil, the Malthusians left their world for Oa. Once there, and in an effort to curb evil, they created the Manhunters. The Manhunters, for all they were supposed to stand for, were flawed and, to the disappointment of the Malthusians, began to malfunction. Their malfunctioning caused the Malthusians to use the central battery to create the Green Power Ring. Becoming a Green Lantern is a true honor. To become one means that you have been chosen by the ring of a deceased lantern. This means that when a lantern dies, its ring leaves the wearer's finger and seeks out a new owner. But the ring doesn't just choose anyone. Being a Green Lantern means that whomever it chose must possess an indomitable will, be able to overcome fear, and do whatever it takes to uphold the oath of the Green Lanterns. And speaking of the oath, in brightest day and blackest night, no evil shall escape my sight. Let those who worship evil's might beware my power, Green Lantern's light. The power ring that each member wears grants the user incredible abilities. Most widely known of the abilities is that the ring allows the user to create anything they can imagine. In addition to that, it gives the wearer flight, acts as a universal translator, offers a degree of protection in the harshest of environments, and so much more. As for the Nova Corps first appeared in Fantastic Four number 205 back in 1979 and are the creation of Marv Wolfman. But they appeared only after their most famous member, Richard Ryder. He first appeared in The Man Called Nova number 1 in 1976. As I already alluded to, the Nova Corps are an intergalactic police force created to keep law and order throughout the galaxies. Their base of operations sits on the planet Xandar, and although the planet has been decimated on more than one occasion, it contains one of the most powerful computers in the universe, the World Mind. The original Nova Corps consisted of approximately 500 soldiers. Within the 500 soldiers were ranks ranging from corpsmen to centurions, leading all members of the Nova Corps as Nova Prime. Just below the high-ranking centurions lie the Denarians. The Denarians outrank the Millennians, who outrank the corpsmen. A Nova's rank is easily identified by the number of stars on their chest and how detailed their helmets are. Richard Ryder's most famous Nova, for example, began as a Centurion after Roman Day selected him as his replacement. Over time and through mass destruction, Ryder became the last of the Novas and was given the full power of the Nova Force and the entirety of the World Mind. But before we get to the World Mind, the home of the Nova Corps, Xandar, is a planet from deep within the Andromeda system. Along with being the home to the Nova Corps, it's also the home to both Firelord and Airwalker. And for reference, Firelord and Airwalker both serve time as Heralds of Galactus. Xandar is also home to the Xandarian World Mind. As mentioned, the World Mind is a supercomputer and it is located deep within the core of the planet. The World Mind is made up of the collective memories and knowledge of the deceased Xandarian people and the Nova Corps. The World Mind is responsible for powering the Nova Corps through the Nova Force. Each member of the Corps receives an amount of power based on their rank. The symbol on the chest of a Nova Corps pays homage to the suns that power the planet. Within the Andromeda Galaxy lie 3 suns, each of which, as mentioned, power Xandar. As a tribute to that which gives them life, the uniform that the Nova Corps wears contains up to 3 suns, with each sun representing a rank. As you can see, the origins of the two groups are drastically different. If we were to base Marvel's copying on that alone, it's pretty obvious they haven't copied DC. But that would make for a really sad video, so we're not going to base it solely on their origins. The Green Lanterns, and all Lantern groups for that matter, are based on the emotional spectrum. And the emotional spectrum gives the characters a level of depth that the Novas don't have. In case you're wondering what the emotional spectrum and the various Lantern Corps represents, red is rage, orange is avarice, yellow is fear, green is will, blue is hope, indigo is compassion, violet is love, black is death, and white is life. Over the last couple of years, a new level to the emotional spectrum has been introduced, ultraviolet, but for the purposes of this, I won't go into it. Creating a group of individuals around their natural emotions is a great way to create relatability. What makes the Lantern group so unique in comparison to the Nova Corps is that each group allows a reader to envision themselves in it. Some, like myself, are filled with hope, so my natural tendency is to relate to the Blue Lanterns. Others may find themselves angry, so they relate to the Red Lanterns. The creation of the emotional spectrum was an extremely intelligent move by DC, and one that has paid off tremendously. It, however, isn't without its flaws. One of the largest drawbacks in classifying an individual to a specific group is that it has the potential to create an argument. I'll use myself once again as an example. Although I relate most to the Blue Lanterns, this doesn't mean that I don't get angry, lack compassion, or love. It's quite the opposite. I do feel all the emotions on the spectrum, but based on the emotional spectrum, I'm only a Blue Lantern, and therefore not a red, orange, green, or violet one. So while the emotional spectrum is a really good idea, it's inherently flawed. Unlike the Lanterns, who are driven by various emotions, the Nova Corps are driven by the definition of right and wrong in the eyes of the law. They are not driven by something ambiguous, nor are they driven by their own personal feelings. The Novas are driven by a set of standards and guidelines written to keep order, and each is held accountable against them. From a purely judicial standpoint, the ways of the Nova Corps should be flawless. It's right versus wrong, good versus evil, police officer versus criminal. There shouldn't be a gray area in which any member can operate within. The laws are the laws, as they say, they're very black and white. However, you and I both know that the judicial system is flawed, and as such, so are the Nova Corps. As history has shown, the Nova Corps operate on a frail foundation that has, on more than one occasion, been toppled. Just look at Garth and Saul. After Nebula decimated Xandar, Garth and Saul was given the near entirety of the Nova Force. What should have been seen as a saving of the Novas became one of the worst days in their history. The Nova Force caused Garth and Saul to be driven mad with both power and grief. When he confronted the Avengers, who he thought gave aid to Nebula, they asked him to search the time stream. He learned that the attack on Xandar was actually the criminal Ravana dressed as Nebula. This unfortunately didn't do anything to change who he now was. A short time later, he confronted Richard Ryder, drained him of all his power, and almost killed him. Corruption, much in the same way it lies in our judicial system, can and does lie within the Nova Corps. As such, the Nova Corps are also inherently flawed. Let's double back to the accusation that Marvel copies DC. I'd argue that if it was based on the inherent flaw of the groups and not what the flaws were, the accusations would probably be correct. But they're not. The accusations are based around the thought that both are police forces imbued with power from an object. So let's talk about the object. The Green Lanterns are powered by a power ring. The ring, when worn and fully charged, I'll get to that in a second, give the Lanterns all the powers mentioned earlier and more. The power rings are their life support, and without them, the Lanterns are nothing more than strong-willed beings. The problem with the ring, although I'd still own one if I could, is that it needs charging. No different than a phone that needs to be plugged in, the power ring only has so much power, and when drained, it becomes nothing more than a piece of jewelry. I will say that for as annoying as it is to have to charge a ring, the fact that it can become drained is made for some excellent storytelling. The ring has found ways to become perfectly useless in the most inopportune of times. Worse yet, when it's about to die, it only gives its wearer a few minutes' notice. The very thought of this drips with irony. Arguably the most advanced piece of technology in the universe isn't advanced enough to give adequate notice. All that aside, I'd still love to have one. So what about the Nova Corps helmets? The helmets are their safeguard against most things that they come up against. In addition to looking really awesome, the helmets record all actions of the Nova for the world mind, translates various languages, allows the wearer to breathe in space, permits the wearer night vision, heat vision, and telescopic sight, picks up radio transmissions, and a little bit more. Whereas the Green Lanterns receive their power from the power ring, the Nova's helmet only enhances what they may or may not already be able to do. Remember, the Nova Corps are powered through the Nova Force by the world mind. And the Nova Force, if you don't remember, is an energy source that hasn't been placed inside of a piece of jewelry. Although what the Nova Force can do and provide remains ambiguous, understand that it is extremely powerful. It's so powerful that many, myself included, consider it one of the most powerful forces in Marvel. So if their origins are different, how they police the galaxy isn't the same, and the ways in which they receive their powers aren't copied, what about their costumes? Surely those are the same. In short, no, not even close. One is green and black while the other is blue and yellow. I'd be remiss to say that the accusations have no merit whatsoever. No matter which way it's looked at, the Green Lanterns and the Nova Corps are both intergalactic police forces. So for that, sure, the Nova Corps is a copy of the Green Lantern Corps. But what do you think? Are the Nova Corps a copy of the Green Lantern Corps? Is there even a point of debating the Green Lantern Corps versus the Nova Corps? Let me know below. And I'm going to wrap it up here. I hope you enjoyed that, and if you did, please hit that subscribe button. Thanks guys. Look, at the end of the day, I know there's a million YouTube channels out there, and for you to take a few minutes to watch one of my videos means the world to me, and I can't thank you enough. I hope you'll come back, and until then, I'll catch you next time.